Introduction. Last Friday, your paycheck finally arrived. You opened your banking app, looked at the number, and for a brief moment, everything felt okay. You told yourself, this month will be different. You'll finally save more. You'll finally get ahead. You'll finally stop worrying about money. But then, rent was deducted. Utilities followed. The credit card payment arrived. Groceries, insurance, a few online subscriptions you barely remembered signing up for, coffee on the way to work, dinner after a long day, one unexpected expense, then another. A week later, you checked your balance again. And somehow, the money had disappeared. Not because you were irresponsible, not because you were lazy, not because you don't work hard enough. It disappeared because you were never taught the most important financial skill of all. Not how to earn money, but how to design what happens after money arrives. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A higher salary doesn't automatically create a better financial life. Many people earn twice what they did 5 years ago, yet still live with the exact same financial stress. The numbers changed. The pressure didn't. Because financial freedom isn't created by income alone. It's created by the system behind that income. Over the next hour and a half, we're going to rebuild the way you think about money from the ground up. Not with unrealistic promises. Not with get-rich-quick shortcuts. But with timeless principles that quietly separate people who always seem financially trapped from those who gradually build lasting wealth. By the end of this audiobook, you won't simply think about earning differently. You'll think about money itself in an entirely new way. Let's begin where every lasting financial transformation truly starts. Not with your paycheck, but with the hidden equation you've been taught your entire life. Chapter 1. The financial equation you were never taught. Most people believe they have a money problem, but in reality, they have an equation problem. From the time you were young, life taught you a simple formula. Study hard, get a good job, earn a paycheck, pay your bills, repeat next month. At first glance, nothing seems wrong with it. Millions of people follow this exact path every day. They wake up early, work diligently, receive their salary, and do it all again the following month. The routine feels normal because nearly everyone around them is living the same way. But here's the question very few people ever stop to ask. What happens after the paycheck arrives? Think about your own life for a moment. How many years did you spend learning how to earn money? School, college, professional training, years developing skills, years improving your resume, years climbing the career ladder. Now ask yourself another question. How much time did anyone spend teaching you what to do after your salary landed in your bank account? For most people, the answer is almost none. And that missing lesson quietly shapes the rest of their financial lives. Because earning money and directing money are two completely different skills. Imagine filling a bucket with water every week. You work hard to fill it. You proudly carry it home. But without realizing it, the bucket has dozens of tiny holes. As you walk, water slowly leaks away, not in dramatic streams, tiny drops, almost invisible. By the time you arrive, half the water is gone. Would your first solution be to carry a bigger bucket? Probably not. You would fix the holes first. Yet financially, most people do exactly the opposite. Instead of repairing the leaks, they chase a larger paycheck, a promotion, another client, overtime, a second job. More income feels like the obvious answer, and for a short time, it often is. The problem is the holes grow with the income. A larger apartment, a newer phone, a nicer car, more subscriptions, more convenience, more monthly obligations. Soon, the bigger paycheck disappears just as quickly as the smaller one did. Not because more income is bad, because the system underneath never changed. This is one of the greatest financial illusions of modern life. People believe income creates wealth. Income creates opportunity. Systems create wealth. There is a profound difference. Picture two friends graduating from university. Both earn exactly the same salary. Both receive the same annual raises. Both live in the same city. 5 years later, one has savings, investments, peace of mind. The other lives paycheck to paycheck, one unexpected expense away from financial panic. What separated them? Not intelligence, not luck, not talent. The answer is much quieter. One built a system. The other relied on income alone. Money behaves in fascinating ways. If it enters your life without direction, it naturally follows the easiest path out. Just like water flowing downhill. A meal here, an online purchase there, a free trial that quietly became a monthly subscription, a few impulse purchases that felt insignificant on their own. None of these decisions seem dangerous. Together, they quietly determine your future. That's why financial success is rarely destroyed by one catastrophic mistake. More often, it's dissolved by hundreds of invisible decisions that never seemed important enough to question. And because each decision feels small, the pattern remains invisible, until one day you wonder why years have passed, yet your financial life hasn't moved very far. This chapter is not about guilt, it's about awareness. Because the moment you begin seeing where money actually travels, you regain something far more valuable than dollars. You regain control. Many people believe budgeting is about restriction. It isn't. A well-designed financial system isn't there to stop you from enjoying life. It's there to make sure today's enjoyment doesn't quietly steal tomorrow's freedom. Every dollar that enters your account asks a silent question. What is my purpose? Most people never answer it. So the dollar answers for itself. It leaves, quietly, without creating anything lasting. But when every dollar receives a clear assignment before it's spent, something remarkable begins to happen. Money starts building instead of disappearing. Progress becomes visible. Stress begins fading. Not overnight, but month after month, decision after decision. Because financial confidence is rarely created by earning dramatically more. It's created by knowing exactly where your money is working. And that realization leads us to an even more uncomfortable truth. In the next chapter, we'll uncover why earning more money often makes people feel less financially secure, and how one invisible habit quietly traps millions of hardworking people in an endless cycle of financial pressure. Chapter 2. Why earning more money doesn't set you free. Imagine receiving an email this afternoon. Congratulations, you've been promoted. Your salary is increasing by 20%. For a few minutes, everything feels lighter. You picture fewer financial worries, a larger savings account, maybe that vacation you've postponed for years. Perhaps life is finally about to become easier. Now imagine yourself 12 months later. The excitement is gone. The larger apartment has become normal. The upgraded car now feels ordinary. The monthly payments have quietly increased. Your streaming subscriptions multiplied. Dining out became more frequent. Weekend spending became routine. Your paycheck is larger. Yet somehow, your stress hasn't disappeared. If anything, it feels strangely familiar. This happens far more often than most people realize. And it's one of the biggest reasons why income alone rarely creates financial freedom. The common belief sounds perfectly logical. If I could just earn a little more, everything would be easier. But hidden inside that sentence is an assumption that often goes unchallenged. It assumes that higher income automatically changes financial behavior. Unfortunately, it usually doesn't. It simply gives old habits a larger budget. Think about building a house. If the foundation has a crack, adding another floor doesn't solve the problem. It simply places more weight on an already unstable structure. Many financial lives work exactly the same way. More income, placed on top of an unchanged system, creates a larger version of the same problem. This pattern has become so common that economists gave it a name: lifestyle inflation. It happens quietly, almost invisibly. You don't wake up one morning deciding to spend dramatically more. Instead, comfort slowly redefines itself. The apartment that once felt luxurious becomes average. The restaurant reserved for special occasions becomes Tuesday night. The expensive coffee becomes a daily habit. The premium subscription becomes only a few dollars. Each decision seems harmless. After all, you can afford it now. Or at least, it feels that way. The problem isn't enjoying better things. There's nothing wrong with improving your quality of life. The danger appears when every increase in income immediately creates a permanent increase in expenses. Because income can change. Obligations usually don't. Imagine two elevators. The first elevator represents your salary. The second represents your lifestyle. Most people unknowingly press both buttons at exactly the same time. Salary rises, lifestyle rises, salary rises again, lifestyle follows immediately behind. No matter how high they climb, the distance between the two elevators never changes. Financial freedom remains exactly where it was before. Always one promotion away, always one raise away, always somewhere in the future, but never arriving. People often mistake this feeling for ambition. In reality, it's dependence. Because the moment your lifestyle requires every dollar you earn, your paycheck stops feeling like opportunity. It becomes survival. Now, every decision carries pressure. You can't easily leave a stressful job. You hesitate to take time off. Unexpected expenses feel dangerous. Not because you're poor, but because your financial structure leaves no room to breathe. This is why two people earning exactly the same income can experience completely different emotional lives. One sleeps peacefully, the other lies awake worrying. The difference isn't usually income, it's margin. Margin is the quiet space between what you earn and what you absolutely need. That space creates options. Options create confidence. Confidence creates freedom. Without margin, every financial decision feels urgent, and urgency almost always leads to short-term thinking. Consider a tree during a storm. A tree with deep roots bends but survives. A tree with shallow roots may look just as healthy on a sunny day. Yet the first strong wind reveals the difference. Financial systems work the same way. When life is calm, almost everyone appears financially stable. The real test comes when something unexpected happens. A medical bill, a broken transmission, a sudden job loss, an economic downturn. These moments don't create financial weakness. They reveal it. The goal isn't to earn enough money to avoid every challenge. The goal is to build a structure strong enough to absorb them. This is where one important distinction changes everything. Income is what enters your life. Cash flow is what stays under your control. Those are not the same thing. A person earning $100,000 a year can have terrible cash flow. Another earning half that amount can quietly build lasting wealth. Because wealth is rarely determined by the size of your paycheck. It's determined by what your paycheck is designed to accomplish. Think back to the first chapter. Money without direction disappears. Now we can add something even more important. More money without direction disappears faster. Not because money is difficult to manage, because human behavior naturally expands to match available resources. Recognizing this isn't discouraging. It's liberating, because it means your future doesn't depend entirely on negotiating a higher salary. It depends on building a better structure. A structure that becomes stronger every time your income grows, instead of becoming more expensive. That's when raises begin working for you, instead of quietly working against you. And before any meaningful structure can be built, one uncomfortable step comes first. You must be willing to see your financial life exactly as it is, not the version you hope exists, not the version you imagine, the real one. Because in the next chapter, we'll discover why clarity is the foundation of every great financial system, and why you can never truly control what you're unwilling to measure. Chapter 3. You cannot control what you refuse to see. There is a question that makes many people uncomfortable. Not because it's difficult, but because the answer is often unknown. If someone asked you right now exactly how much money left your account last month, answer with confidence? Not approximately, not a rough estimate, the actual number. More importantly, could you explain where every dollar went? For most people, the honest answer is no, and that's completely understandable. Life moves quickly. Bills are paid automatically. Cards replace cash. Subscriptions renew in the background. Small purchases happen with a single tap. Money comes in. Money goes out. Weeks pass. Months disappear. Eventually, the financial picture becomes blurry, and blurry pictures make poor decisions. Imagine a pilot preparing to fly through thick clouds. Before taking off, someone quietly removes every instrument from the cockpit. No altitude indicator. No fuel gauge, no compass, no radar. The engines still work, the plane still moves, but the pilot has lost the ability to understand where he is. Would you ever board that flight? Of course not. Yet millions of people manage their finances exactly this way. They work hard, earn consistently, pay bills on time, but they navigate their financial lives almost entirely by feeling, I think I'm doing okay. I don't spend that much. I'll probably have enough. Those words sound harmless, but financial confidence built on assumptions is surprisingly fragile because assumptions disappear the moment reality arrives. Here's something fascinating about the human mind. We remember large expenses, the vacation, the new laptop, the car payment, the television, but we rarely notice the hundreds of tiny decisions quietly happening between them. A snack on the way home, a rideshare instead of walking, another streaming subscription, an online purchase made late at night, a convenience fee, a delivery charge. None of them seem important. Individually, they aren't. Collectively, they shape your financial future. Money rarely disappears all at once. It evaporates, quietly, patiently, almost politely, like a slow leak beneath the floorboards of a house. You don't notice it the first day or the first week, but months later, the damage becomes impossible to ignore. This is why awareness is the foundation of every financial system. Not budgeting, not investing, not saving. Awareness comes first, because you cannot improve what remains invisible. For the next 30 days, imagine treating yourself like a scientist, not a critic, not a judge, a scientist. Your goal isn't to prove you're good with money or bad with money. Your goal is simply to observe. Every dollar that leaves your account gets written down. No excuses, no guessing, no rounding, just observation. You may be surprised by what you discover. Many people expect to find one huge financial mistake. Instead, they discover something much quieter. Their spending reflects habits, not intentions. There's an important difference. Intentions are what we hope to do. Habits are what we actually repeat. And habits, not intentions, create financial outcomes. One helpful way to see this clearly is to divide every expense into 4 simple groups. The first is essential fixed costs. These are the bills that rarely change. Rent, mortgage payments, insurance, loan repayments. The obligations that arrive month after month with almost identical numbers. The second group is essential variable costs. Food, electricity, transportation, medicine. Necessary expenses, but ones that naturally rise and fall. The third category surprises almost everyone. Non-essential fixed costs, monthly memberships, streaming platforms, software subscriptions, premium services, gym memberships you've forgotten to cancel. Each one seems inexpensive. Together, they quietly become another monthly bill. The final category, and often the most revealing, is non-essential variable spending. Coffee, dining out, impulse purchases, entertainment, convenience spending. Tiny moments of comfort that individually feel harmless, but collectively determine whether money builds your future or quietly disappears into yesterday. This exercise isn't designed to make you feel guilty. Quite the opposite. Clarity removes guilt, because guilt says I'm bad with money. Clarity says, now I know what's happening. Those are completely different conversations. The first attacks your identity. The second empowers your decisions. Psychologists have long observed something called the spotlight effect. We naturally exaggerate what we think is happening, while overlooking what actually is. Money works the same way. We often worry about the wrong financial problems, while ignoring the patterns quietly creating them. That's why awareness feels so powerful. The moment numbers replace assumptions, anxiety begins losing its grip, because uncertainty is exhausting. Certainty, even uncomfortable certainty, creates options. Imagine turning on the lights in a dark room. The furniture didn't change. The room didn't become larger. Nothing physically improved. But suddenly, you knew exactly where everything was. And knowing where things are changes how you move. Financial clarity works exactly the same way. You don't become wealthier overnight. You become wiser. And wisdom, repeated consistently, almost always becomes wealth. Before you can tell money where to go, you must first discover where it has been going all along. That simple shift from guessing to knowing marks the beginning of genuine financial confidence. Because once you can finally see the entire picture, you become ready for the next transformation. Not learning how to save more, but deciding the purpose of every dollar before it ever reaches your account. And that single habit, as you'll discover in the next chapter, changes almost everything. Chapter 4. Give every dollar a purpose before it exists. Imagine you're the manager of a construction site. Every morning, dozens of skilled workers arrive: electricians, plumbers, carpenters, engineers. Each one is ready to work, but no one gives them instructions. There are no blueprints, no schedule, no assignments. What happens? Some workers stand around waiting. Others begin doing whatever seems important. A few accidentally undo someone else's work. By sunset, everyone has been busy, but almost nothing has been built. Money behaves in exactly the same way. Every payday, your dollars arrive ready to work. Each one asks the same silent question: what do you want me to build? If you don't answer, life answers for you. Bills take their share. Convenience takes another. Impulse spending quietly claims the rest. By the end of the month, your money has worked tirelessly. It simply worked for someone else's priorities, not yours. This is why financially successful people often seem remarkably calm. They aren't making better decisions every single day. They made better decisions before payday ever arrived. That is the difference. Most people operate with this sequence: earn, spend, hope something remains. If something is left, save it. It sounds reasonable. It even feels responsible. But think about what usually happens. The paycheck arrives. You promise yourself you'll save whatever isn't spent. Then life begins. Groceries, fuel, a birthday gift, dinner with friends, a forgotten subscription renews. The washing machine suddenly needs repairs. By month's end, there's very little left to save. Not because saving wasn't important, because it came last. Human nature almost always spends what's available. Financial systems succeed when they respect human nature, instead of fighting against it. Now imagine reversing the order. The paycheck arrives. Before emotions, before decisions, before temptations, your money already knows exactly where it belongs. A percentage moves directly into long-term savings. Another percentage strengthens your emergency fund. Another pays down debt. Another is reserved for investing in your future. Only then does the remaining money become available for spending. Notice something important. You're still spending. You're still enjoying life. The difference is your future has already been paid first. Everything else comes second. This principle has existed for generations. Many people call it pay yourself first. The name sounds simple, almost too simple. But beneath those 4 words lies one of the most powerful financial habits ever created. The reason it works isn't motivation. It isn't discipline. It isn't extraordinary self-control. It works because it removes decision-making from emotional moments. Think about how many important financial decisions happen when you're tired. After work, late at night, while scrolling online, after a stressful meeting, during a difficult week, when emotions are high, logic becomes quieter. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. Every choice you make throughout the day slowly reduces your mental energy. By evening, your brain naturally seeks comfort, not optimization. Comfort. That's why people often buy things they never planned to buy. Not because they're irresponsible, because they're mentally exhausted. Now imagine eliminating that struggle completely. Instead of asking yourself every month, should I save this time? The decision was made months ago, automatically, quietly, without requiring today's emotions to participate. Your future self receives the benefit even when your present self feels distracted. This is the hidden strength of systems. Systems don't depend on motivation. They continue working, even when motivation disappears. Consider another example. Imagine 2 people deciding to become healthier. The first says, I'll exercise whenever I feel motivated. The second schedules every workout on the calendar before the week even begins. Who succeeds more often? Usually the second. Not because they're stronger, because the decision has already been made. Money follows the same psychology. When your financial decisions are postponed until payday, your emotions negotiate every dollar. When your financial decisions are made beforehand, your system quietly carries them out. The difference may seem small. Over 1 month, it is. Over 10 years, it becomes enormous because every paycheck becomes another brick. Every automatic transfer becomes another beam supporting your financial future. Eventually, you're no longer wondering where your money went. You already know. It went exactly where you told it to go. This is the beginning of financial intention, not reacting, designing, not hoping, planning, not surviving 1 month at a time, but quietly building a future with every paycheck you receive. And once every dollar has a purpose, another invisible danger begins to reveal itself. Ironically, it often appears just when life starts getting better. You receive a raise, a promotion, a larger bonus. Most people celebrate. Very few realize they're standing at the entrance to one of the greatest financial traps of all. In the next chapter, we'll uncover why lifestyle inflation quietly steals more wealth than almost any recession, and how the happiest financially secure people learn to escape it before it ever takes hold. Chapter 5: The Lifestyle Trap That Keeps People Working Forever. A strange thing happens after someone gets a raise. Not immediately, not on payday, but slowly, almost invisibly. The old apartment suddenly feels a little too small. The old phone seems outdated. The reliable car somehow doesn't feel exciting anymore. The vacation that once seemed luxurious now appears ordinary. Nothing is actually wrong, yet satisfaction quietly begins to fade. Why? Because human beings are remarkably adaptable. The life that once felt extraordinary eventually becomes normal. Psychologists call this phenomenon hedonic adaptation. In simple terms, we become accustomed to almost everything. The exciting purchase that filled us with happiness 6 months ago soon becomes part of everyday life. The larger television, the designer watch, the premium coffee machine, the dream kitchen. At first, each one feels special. Eventually, they simply become background. And once something becomes normal, our minds begin searching for the next upgrade. This cycle has no natural ending, because every new comfort quickly becomes the new standard. Imagine climbing a mountain. You finally reach the top. The view is breathtaking. You smile, you feel proud, but moments later, you notice another mountain beyond it. Suddenly, the summit you're standing on doesn't feel quite as impressive. Life works this way more often than we realize. Achievement changes our expectations. Comfort changes our definition of enough. This is why financial success isn't destroyed by luxury itself. It's destroyed by constantly redefining what feels necessary. There's an important difference between improving your life and upgrading your identity. Buying a better mattress because you sleep more comfortably is an improvement. Buying an expensive mattress because successful people should own one is something entirely different. One decision serves your life, the other serves your image. The same pattern appears everywhere. A larger home, luxury clothing, the newest technology, expensive restaurants, exclusive memberships. None of these things are inherently bad. The real question is much deeper. Are they increasing your quality of life or increasing the cost of maintaining the image you've created? Many people unknowingly begin purchasing symbols instead of value, status instead of freedom, appearance instead of peace. And the most dangerous part? Society quietly rewards it. Drive a luxury car. People notice. Wear expensive clothes. People compliment you. Move into a bigger house. Friends congratulate you. Very few people celebrate the individual who quietly invests another 20% of their income, or the family that chooses financial security over visible wealth. Those victories happen silently, but their rewards last much longer. Consider two neighbors. The first upgrades everything whenever income increases. A larger mortgage, a newer SUV, higher monthly payments, more financial commitments. From the outside, life looks impressive. The second neighbor receives the same raises, but instead of expanding every expense, they allow only a small portion of each raise to improve their lifestyle. The rest quietly strengthens their future. Emergency savings grow, investments compound, debt disappears faster. Year after year, their visible lives may appear surprisingly similar, but beneath the surface, their realities drift farther apart. 10 years later, one owns expensive possessions, the other owns choices. And choices are one of the rarest forms of wealth. The freedom to change careers, the freedom to take time off, the freedom to help family members, the freedom to sleep peacefully during uncertain times. Those freedoms rarely appear overnight. They're purchased gradually, through hundreds of decisions no one else ever notices. There's another psychological force quietly working against us: social comparison. Imagine attending a neighborhood barbecue. Someone arrives in a brand new luxury vehicle. Another family just returned from an international vacation. Someone else is renovating their home. Without realizing it, your brain begins measuring, not intentionally, automatically. Suddenly, the life you appreciated yesterday feels slightly inadequate today. Nothing about your financial situation actually changed, only your reference point did. Comparison has a remarkable ability to manufacture dissatisfaction. And dissatisfaction is incredibly expensive, because when we spend money trying to keep up with other people's lifestyles, we often sacrifice our own long-term freedom. The irony is almost painful. Many of the people we compare ourselves to are struggling financially as well. They simply struggle more elegantly. Appearances reveal very little. Debt is invisible. Financial anxiety is invisible. Sleepless nights are invisible. A luxury car can be financed. Designer clothing can be purchased on credit. An impressive social media lifestyle can be carefully edited. Real financial security cannot. It reveals itself quietly, through confidence, through flexibility, through peace of mind. One helpful question can interrupt this cycle before it begins. Before making any significant purchase, pause for a moment and ask yourself, will this expense improve my daily life, or simply improve how my life appears? Sometimes the answer will be both. Often, it won't. That single question creates space between emotion and action. And in that space, better financial decisions are born. Remember, wealth isn't measured by what enters your garage. It's measured by how much of your future you've already purchased. Every unnecessary permanent expense quietly delays freedom. Every intentional financial choice quietly brings it closer. The goal isn't to reject success. The goal is to ensure success expands your freedom instead of expanding your obligations. Because the people who achieve lasting financial independence rarely look dramatically different from everyone else. Their greatest luxury often isn't visible at all. It's time. It's peace. It's knowing they don't have to say yes to opportunities that compromise the life they've intentionally built. And once you've escaped the trap of constantly spending more, another powerful force begins working in your favor. Not harder work, not higher income, but something far more patient and infinitely more powerful: the quiet force of consistency. In the next chapter, we'll discover why small financial decisions repeated for years outperform dramatic bursts of motivation, and how ordinary habits quietly create extraordinary wealth. Chapter 6: Small decisions create extraordinary wealth. Imagine placing a single seed into the ground. You water it, protect it, wait. The next morning, nothing seems different. A week later, still almost nothing. A month passes. Growth is barely visible. If you judge the seed only by what happened during those first few weeks, you might conclude that nothing was happening at all. But beneath the surface, roots were forming. Strength was developing. A foundation was quietly being built. Money follows the same law. The greatest financial transformations are almost never dramatic. They are gradual. So gradual that many people stop too early because they mistake slow progress for no progress. Modern culture has trained us to expect immediate results: fast internet, instant deliveries, one-click purchases, same-day gratification. Naturally, many people begin expecting wealth to grow the same way. If they don't see dramatic progress after a few months, they assume the system isn't working. So they abandon it. Then they begin searching for another strategy, another investment, another shortcut, another promise. Ironically, The constant search for faster results often becomes the greatest obstacle to lasting wealth, because financial success rarely belongs to those who move the fastest. It belongs to those who refuse to stop moving. Imagine two people beginning the same journey. The first saves $200 every month, never misses, never increases dramatically, just quiet consistency. The second saves aggressively for 3 months, then stops for 6, starts again, stops again, always waiting for the perfect time. At first, the second person appears far more motivated, but years later, the first quietly pulls ahead, not because they earned more, not because they invested better, because consistency quietly defeated intensity. This pattern appears everywhere in life. A person who reads 10 pages every day often learns more than someone who reads 3 books over one enthusiastic weekend and then never opens another. Someone who walks 30 minutes every day usually becomes healthier than someone who exercises intensely for 2 weeks, then quits entirely. Financial habits obey the same principle. Small actions, repeated consistently, become surprisingly powerful. The challenge is that our brains naturally underestimate gradual progress. We're wired to notice sudden change, not slow accumulation. Imagine adding 1 brick to a wall every day. After the first week, the wall barely exists. After 1 month, it still seems unimpressive. But continue for several years, and eventually, you've built something capable of protecting generations. Money grows the same way, not all at once. One decision, one paycheck, one habit, 1 month at a time. This is why discipline often looks boring. There are no dramatic headlines, no overnight success stories, no spectacular moments, just quiet repetition. And yet, quiet repetition changes lives. There's another reason consistency matters so much. Every repeated action strengthens your identity. Think about someone who says, "I'm trying to save money." Now compare that to someone who says, "I am someone who always pays my future first." The difference seems subtle, but psychologically, it's enormous. The first person is chasing a behavior. The second has adopted an identity. Identity shapes habits far more effectively than motivation ever can. When saving becomes part of who you are, instead of something you're temporarily attempting, your decisions begin changing almost automatically. You no longer ask, "Should I save this month?" Saving becomes what you naturally do. The same principle applies to investing, debt reduction, spending, generosity. Every financial habit quietly answers a deeper question. What kind of person am I becoming? Here's something fascinating. Every financial decision produces 2 results, the obvious result and the invisible one. Suppose you decide not to make an unnecessary purchase. The obvious result is simple. You keep the money, but something else happens. You also reinforce the identity of someone capable of making intentional decisions. That invisible reward often becomes more valuable than the money itself, because identity compounds just as investments do. Every wise decision makes the next wise decision slightly easier. Every careless habit makes the next careless habit feel more normal. Eventually, your financial life begins operating almost automatically, not because money became easier, because your habits became stronger. This is why successful people often appear disciplined. In reality, many of them simply removed unnecessary decisions. Their savings happen automatically. Their investments happen automatically. Their bills are organized. Their priorities were established long ago. Instead of relying on daily willpower, they rely on carefully designed routines, and routines rarely become emotional. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably don't debate whether to do it every evening. It has become automatic. Financial habits can reach that same level. The goal isn't to become obsessed with money. The goal is to reduce the number of financial decisions requiring emotional energy. When systems handle the routine, your mind becomes free to focus on opportunities instead of constant financial stress. Perhaps the most encouraging truth is this: you don't need to change your entire financial life today. In fact, trying to change everything at once often leads to changing nothing at all. Instead, choose one habit, one improvement, one small action you can repeat without fail. Maybe it's reviewing your spending every Sunday. Maybe it's transferring money into savings every payday. Maybe it's preparing next month's budget before this month ends. Small enough to repeat, important enough to matter. Because repetition, not perfection, creates transformation. Years from now, people may look at your financial life and assume you were simply good with money. They won't see the countless ordinary decisions that quietly built extraordinary results. The skipped impulse purchases, the automatic transfers, the consistent investments, the patient waiting. They'll only notice the destination, not the thousands of quiet steps that brought you there. And those quiet steps become even more powerful when paired with one extraordinary force, a force so underestimated that many people ignore it for years. Yet it has built more fortunes than almost any business idea or salary increase ever could. In the next chapter, we'll uncover the remarkable power of compound growth and why time, not income, is often the greatest financial advantage anyone can possess. Chapter 7. The quiet power of compounding. Imagine standing at the edge of a calm lake. You pick up a small stone. Nothing remarkable. You toss it into the water. The splash is tiny, barely noticeable, but then something interesting happens. A ripple forms, then another. The circles grow wider, touching parts of the lake far beyond where the stone first landed. One tiny action creates an effect much larger than itself. Money behaves in much the same way, except the ripples don't spread across water. They spread across time. This is the principle that quietly transforms ordinary financial habits into extraordinary results. It's called compounding. Many people think compounding only belongs in investing. It doesn't. Compounding is simply the process of small gains creating even larger gains over time. It appears in every part of life. Knowledge compounds, relationships compound, trust compounds, health compounds. And perhaps nowhere is its impact more dramatic than in your financial life. The challenge is that compounding is deeply unintuitive. Our brains naturally think in straight lines. If you save $100 every month, your mind quickly estimates what you'll have after a year, after 10 years, after 20. Simple addition feels familiar. Compounding doesn't follow that path. It grows quietly, then suddenly. For a long time, it appears almost disappointing. Progress feels painfully slow. You wonder whether the effort is even worthwhile. Then, almost without warning, growth begins accelerating. Not because you suddenly worked harder, but because time has finally joined your side. Imagine pushing a heavy flywheel. The first push barely moves it. The second feels just as difficult. The third, the fourth, the fifth, each requires patience. You might even wonder whether it's broken. Then something changes. Momentum begins helping you. Each rotation becomes easier than the last. Eventually, the wheel seems to move almost on its own. Financial compounding works exactly like that. The early years build momentum. The later years harvest it. This is why people often underestimate what they can accomplish over decades, while overestimating what they can accomplish in a few months. We crave immediate transformation, but wealth usually rewards patient repetition. Think about planting an orchard. A farmer doesn't expect fruit the following week, or even the following season. The work begins long before the reward appears. Preparing the soil, planting the trees, watering consistently, protecting young branches. To someone passing by, it may appear as though nothing valuable is happening. But the farmer understands something important. Invisible growth is still growth. The same is true for your finances. Every dollar invested, every unnecessary purchase avoided, every debt payment made a little earlier, every automatic transfer, each one feels insignificant on its own. Together, they become the roots of financial freedom. There's another form of compounding that rarely receives enough attention. The compounding of confidence. The first time you successfully save an emergency fund, you feel slightly calmer. The first time an unexpected expense arrives, and you don't panic. Your relationship with money changes. The first time your investments continue growing while you sleep, you begin seeing income differently. Confidence builds confidence. Success reinforces future success. Just as poor habits become easier through repetition, healthy financial habits strengthen themselves over time. This creates a remarkable cycle. Good decisions create better outcomes. Better outcomes increase confidence. Greater confidence makes future good decisions easier. Eventually, your financial system begins supporting itself, not because life became easier, because your habits became stronger. Unfortunately, compounding works both ways. Just as wise decisions multiply, careless decisions do as well. A small amount of high-interest debt left unpaid doesn't remain small forever. Impulse purchases repeated every weekend quietly become thousands of dollars. Delaying investments by a few years may seem insignificant today, but over decades, those lost years can never be recovered. Time is always compounding something. The only question is whether it's working for you or against you. This realization often surprises people. They assume wealthy individuals possess extraordinary investment knowledge. Many certainly do, but countless financially secure people simply began earlier and remained consistent longer. Time did much of the heavy lifting. Warren Buffett was once asked about the secret behind his extraordinary wealth. Many expected a complicated investment formula. Instead, his answer pointed towards something much simpler. Much of his wealth came from allowing time to work uninterrupted. His fortune wasn't built in a single brilliant year. It was built over decades of patient compounding. That lesson applies to all of us. You don't need millions of dollars to benefit from compounding. You need consistency and enough patience to let small actions become large outcomes. Imagine meeting two versions of yourself 20 years from now. One version made small, intentional financial choices, month after month, even when progress felt invisible. The other waited for more income, waited for the perfect investment, waited until life became less busy. At first, their lives looked almost identical. Years later, the difference is astonishing, not because one person was smarter, because one respected time, while the other underestimated it. Time rewards those who begin before they feel ready, because no one ever looks back wishing they had started saving later, or investing later, or building better financial habits later. The greatest advantage isn't finding the perfect opportunity. It's giving ordinary opportunities enough time to grow extraordinary. And once you understand the quiet power of compounding, another question naturally appears. If building wealth is largely about patience, why do so many intelligent people continue making financial decisions that sabotage their own future? The answer has very little to do with mathematics and almost everything to do with psychology. In the next chapter, we'll explore the hidden emotional triggers that quietly control spending and how mastering your mind often becomes far more valuable than mastering your money. Chapter 8. Why your brain keeps spending against your best interests. Imagine walking into a supermarket for one item, just one, milk. 5 minutes later, you're standing in the checkout line. Your basket is full. Chocolate, snacks, a scented candle, a bottle of sparkling water, something that was on sale, something you didn't know existed 10 minutes ago. You smile to yourself and wonder, how did this happen? It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a lack of intelligence. It certainly wasn't because you're bad with money. Your brain simply did what it has been designed to do for thousands of years. Seek immediate rewards, avoid immediate discomfort, and respond to emotional signals much faster than logical ones. This is one of the most important truths in personal finance. Money decisions are rarely about money. They're about emotion. Think back to the last purchase you regretted. Perhaps it happened after a stressful day, maybe after an argument, or after scrolling through social media, or during a weekend when you simply wanted to feel better. The purchase itself wasn't the real decision. The emotion came first. The spending followed. This pattern is so common that researchers have given it a name, emotional spending, and it quietly influences millions of financial decisions every single day. Here's something remarkable. The human brain contains two systems that constantly work together. One is fast, emotional, automatic. It reacts before you consciously think. The other is slower, logical, patient. It evaluates consequences. The challenge is that money often flows through the fast system, long before the slow system has a chance to speak. Imagine standing in front of a bakery. Fresh bread, warm pastries. The smell alone changes your mood. Your emotional brain whispers, "You deserve this." Your logical brain eventually responds, "You already have food at home." But notice something important. The emotional voice arrived first. Financial decisions often unfold exactly the same way. An advertisement promises happiness. A limited time discount creates urgency. A luxury product suggests success. Your emotional brain reacts instantly. Your rational brain enters the conversation a few seconds later. Unfortunately, many purchases are already halfway complete. Modern businesses understand this psychology remarkably well. Stores don't simply sell products, they design experiences. Soft lighting, pleasant music, comfortable layouts, words like exclusive, limited edition, today only. These aren't random marketing choices, they're carefully designed emotional triggers. Online shopping follows the same principles. Notice how simple it has become. One click, one fingerprint, one confirmation. The fewer moments you have to think, the more likely you are to buy. Because every extra second gives your logical mind another opportunity to ask, do I actually need this? Convenience isn't the enemy. Mindless convenience is. Now consider another emotional force, stress. When life feels overwhelming, our brains naturally search for relief. For some people, it's food. For others, it's entertainment. For many, it's spending. A new purchase briefly creates excitement, a small rush of pleasure, a temporary escape. Scientists have observed that anticipating a purchase often releases nearly as much pleasure as owning it. That's why adding something to an online cart can feel surprisingly satisfying. The brain isn't responding to the object, it's responding to the expectation of reward. The problem is, expectation fades quickly. The excitement disappears. The financial obligation remains. Soon, another emotional dip arrives. Another purchase promises relief. The cycle quietly repeats itself. This isn't weakness, it's biology. Understanding that changes everything. Because once you recognize the emotional pattern, you stop blaming yourself and start designing around it. Imagine placing a simple pause between desire and action. Instead of buying immediately, you wait 24 hours. Nothing more, just one day. If the purchase still feels important tomorrow, you can make it with greater confidence. If the desire quietly disappears, you've learned something valuable. It wasn't a need, it was a moment. That single pause has saved countless people thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Not because waiting eliminates spending, because waiting separates emotion from intention. Another helpful habit is asking a different question. Instead of, can I afford this? Ask, is this the best use of this money? Those questions sound similar. They are not. Most people can technically afford many unnecessary purchases. The deeper question is opportunity. Every dollar spent today loses the ability to serve another purpose tomorrow. That expensive gadget could have strengthened your emergency fund. That impulse purchase could have reduced debt. That unnecessary upgrade could have quietly compounded into something much larger years from now. Every financial decision is also a decision about every alternative you're giving up. Economists call this opportunity cost. Most people rarely notice it because what they gain is visible. What they sacrifice remains invisible. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path leads toward immediate pleasure. The other leads toward future freedom. Neither path is completely right or completely wrong. Life should absolutely include enjoyment. The goal isn't to eliminate pleasure. It's to become intentional about where pleasure truly comes from. Because lasting satisfaction rarely arrives through endless consumption. It comes from progress, from security, from knowing your future is becoming stronger with every thoughtful decision you make. Ironically, the people who experience the greatest financial peace aren't always the ones who spend the least. They're the ones whose spending consistently reflects their deepest values. Money becomes stressful when it serves emotion. Money becomes powerful when it serves purpose. And once you've learned to recognize the emotional forces shaping your spending, you're finally prepared for one of the most practical skills in personal finance. Not earning more, not investing better, but protecting yourself from the unexpected moments that can undo years of progress. In the next chapter, we'll build the financial safety net that transforms emergencies from personal disasters into temporary inconveniences. Chapter 9, the emergency fund, buying peace before you need it. There are two kinds of people in the world. The first hears unexpected bad news and immediately asks, how am I going to pay for this? The second hears the exact same news, takes a deep breath, and begins solving the problem. The event is identical. The emotional experience is completely different. What separates them isn't intelligence. It isn't income. It isn't luck. It's preparation. Imagine driving home after work. The day has been ordinary. Traffic is light. Your favorite song is playing. Then, a warning light appears on your dashboard. Moments later, the engine loses power. You pull over. The mechanic delivers the news. The repair will cost $2,000. Now, imagine this happening to two different people. The first has no emergency savings. Immediately, panic begins. Credit cards, personal loans, borrowing from family, late payment fees, sleepless nights. The broken car quickly becomes a financial crisis. Now imagine the second person. The repair is still frustrating. No one enjoys unexpected expenses. But after paying the bill, their life continues. No debt, no panic, no financial spiral. The emergency was real. The emergency became manageable. That difference is what an emergency fund truly provides. Many people believe an emergency fund exists to pay bills. It does much more than that. It buys emotional stability. It buys better decisions. It buys time, because panic is expensive. When people feel trapped, they often make decisions designed to escape today's pain without considering tomorrow's consequences. High-interest loans, early retirement withdrawals, selling investments during market downturns, accepting unhealthy jobs simply because they need immediate income. These aren't usually poor decisions made by careless people. They're desperate decisions made by people without options. An emergency fund creates options, and options are one of the most valuable financial assets anyone can possess. Think of an emergency fund as the foundation beneath a house. Visitors rarely admire it. No one posts photographs of it. It isn't exciting. It isn't glamorous. But when storms arrive, the foundation determines whether everything above it remains standing. Life is remarkably unpredictable. A medical emergency, a broken appliance, unexpected home repairs, temporary unemployment, family responsibilities. None of these events are unusual. In fact, they're almost guaranteed to happen eventually. The only mystery is when. Yet many people prepare for events that might never happen, while ignoring events that almost certainly will. Insurance exists because uncertainty exists. An emergency fund is simply personal insurance, funded by you. Here's an interesting observation. Financial emergencies rarely arrive one at a time. Life has a curious habit of stacking difficulties together. The washing machine breaks. Then someone gets sick. Then work becomes unstable. Suddenly, what began as one inconvenience becomes overwhelming. Without financial reserves, each problem magnifies the next. With reserves, each problem remains exactly what it is: a problem, not a catastrophe. Many financial experts recommend building an emergency fund capable of covering several months of essential living expenses. The exact number matters less than the principle. The principle is simple. Your future self deserves protection from circumstances you cannot predict. That protection doesn't appear overnight. It grows one contribution at a time, one paycheck, one automatic transfer, one intentional decision after another. At first, the balance seems almost insignificant. A few $100s, then 1,000, then 2. Progress feels slow, sometimes frustratingly slow. But remember what we've already learned. Small actions repeated consistently eventually become extraordinary results. The first $1,000 doesn't eliminate every financial risk. It changes something equally important: your mindset. You begin sleeping differently. Unexpected phone calls feel less frightening. Bills become less emotionally exhausting. For the first time, money begins serving you instead of controlling you. There's another surprising benefit. An emergency fund improves every other financial decision. Imagine investing during a market downturn. Without emergency savings, every drop in the market feels terrifying. What if you suddenly need the money? What if an emergency happens tomorrow? Fear begins influencing investment decisions. Now imagine the same situation with a fully funded emergency reserve. Nothing about the market has changed, but your confidence has, because short-term emergencies no longer threaten your long-term investments. Preparation creates patience, and patience is one of the greatest advantages any investor can possess. Some people hesitate to build emergency savings because they worry the money isn't doing enough. It's sitting quietly, growing slowly, perhaps earning only modest interest. That criticism misses the point entirely. The primary purpose of an emergency fund isn't maximizing returns, it's minimizing damage. Fire extinguishers rarely produce impressive returns either. Yet no one complains that they sit unused. Their value appears only when they're needed. The same is true for financial reserves. The best emergency fund is the one you hope you never have to use. And if one day you do, it has already accomplished exactly what it was designed to do. Not by making you richer, but by preventing one difficult season from becoming years of financial recovery. Remember, financial freedom isn't measured by how rarely problems appear. It's measured by how calmly you can respond when they do. Every dollar placed into your emergency fund is quietly purchasing future peace of mind. Not excitement, not status, peace. And that may be one of the highest returns money can ever provide. But protecting yourself from emergencies is only half of the journey. Eventually, your financial system reaches an important turning point. You stop asking, "How do I survive?" and begin asking a completely different question. How do I make my money start working for me? That question changes everything. Because in the next chapter, we'll explore the powerful transition from earning money through your time to allowing your money to quietly generate value long after you've stopped working. Chapter 10. Stop trading time for money. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and deciding not to go to work. No meetings, no customers, no emails, no deadlines, just one quiet day for yourself. Now ask yourself a simple question. Would money still enter your life today? For most people, the answer is no. The moment work stops, income stops. We've been taught from childhood that this is simply how money works. You exchange your time for income, hour after hour, day after day, year after year. At first, this arrangement feels perfectly reasonable. After all, every profession works this way. Teachers, doctors, electricians, designers, engineers, business owners, everyone invests time to create value. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, earning money through honest work is one of the most honorable things a person can do. The problem begins when time becomes your only source of income. Because time is the one resource that can never expand. Everyone receives the same 24 hours each day. No promotion, no bonus, no second job can create a 25th hour. That reality quietly places a ceiling on how much your labor alone can produce. Imagine carrying buckets of water from a river to your home every single day. Each morning, you walk to the river, fill the bucket, carry it home, return, repeat. The system works. Your family has water, but if you become sick, the water stops. Now imagine spending part of your time building a pipeline. At first, the pipeline feels frustrating. Building it takes longer than carrying buckets. Your neighbors may even wonder why you're working so hard without seeing immediate results. But one day, water begins flowing by itself. Even while you sleep, even while you rest, even when you're away. Money works in much the same way. Most people spend their entire lives carrying buckets. Financially secure people eventually begin building pipelines. These pipelines can take many forms: investments, dividend-paying assets, rental income, a business that operates without requiring your constant presence, royalties from books, digital products, intellectual property. The specific pipeline matters less than the principle. The principle is simple. Gradually create income that becomes less dependent on your daily hours. Notice something important. This doesn't mean you should stop working. Many financially independent people continue working long after they no longer have to. The difference is profound. They work because they choose to, not because they must. Choice transforms everything. A job can feel completely different when walking away is an option. You negotiate with greater confidence. You make decisions based on purpose instead of fear. You protect your health. You spend more time with family. You pursue meaningful opportunities instead of merely urgent ones. Financial independence isn't really about money. It's about ownership of your time. Time is life's most valuable currency. Money can often be earned again. Time never can. That's why every financial decision ultimately becomes a decision about future time. When you reduce unnecessary debt, you're buying future freedom. When you invest consistently, you're purchasing future choices. When you avoid lifestyle inflation, you're reclaiming years that might otherwise be spent working simply to maintain expensive obligations. Many people imagine wealth as an enormous bank account. But consider someone with modest financial assets, few expenses, and complete control over their schedule. Now compare them with someone earning an extraordinary salary while working 70-hour weeks, constantly stressed, unable to take time off. Who is truly wealthier? Income alone cannot answer that question. Freedom can. There's another misconception worth challenging. People often believe passive income appears suddenly, almost magically. It doesn't. Passive income usually begins as active effort. The author spends years writing before earning royalties. The entrepreneur builds systems before they generate income independently. The investor patiently contributes month after month before seeing meaningful returns. Every pipeline begins as construction, not convenience. This is why patience remains essential. You are not simply trying to earn more next month. You are gradually redesigning the relationship between your time and your money. Each investment, each asset, each thoughtful financial decision adds another section to the pipeline. Eventually, one day arrives that seems almost ordinary. Your investments generate more income than they did last year. Your emergency fund quietly protects you. Your expenses require a smaller percentage of what you earn. Your financial stress feels lighter. No single dramatic event created this moment. Thousands of ordinary decisions did. And perhaps that's the most encouraging lesson in this entire audiobook. Financial freedom rarely arrives with fireworks. It arrives quietly. One morning, you realize you're no longer worried every time an unexpected bill appears. You're no longer waiting desperately for payday. You're no longer measuring every decision through fear. Your money has slowly begun serving your life instead of your life serving your money. That is the true turning point. Not becoming rich, becoming free. And in our final chapter, we'll bring every principle together into one complete philosophy of wealth, revealing why the greatest financial transformation never begins in your bank account. It begins in the way you think. Chapter 11. Wealth begins in the mind long before it appears in the bank. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine two people standing at exactly the same starting line. They are the same age. They earn nearly the same salary. They live in similar neighborhoods. They face the same economy, the same inflation, the same opportunities. Fast forward 20 years. One enjoys financial freedom. The other is still counting the days until the next paycheck. What happened? Most people immediately search for an external explanation. Luck, connections, higher income, better investments. Those factors certainly matter, but they rarely tell the whole story. The greatest difference usually appeared long before the money did. It began with the way each person thought, because every financial decision starts long before money changes hands. It starts with a belief about success, a belief about security, a belief about what money is actually for. Throughout this audiobook, we've discovered something surprising. Money itself is rarely the real problem. The real challenge is the invisible system operating behind every decision. The habits, the emotions, the priorities, the beliefs that quietly shape our behavior every single day. Think back to the very beginning. You received a paycheck. For a brief moment, everything felt under control. Then, Little by little, the money disappeared. That story wasn't really about income. It was about direction, because money without direction always finds somewhere else to go. Then we explored a difficult truth. A larger salary doesn't automatically create a larger life. Sometimes it simply creates larger obligations. Without intention, income grows, expenses grow alongside it, stress remains exactly the same. We also learned that clarity changes everything. The moment you begin tracking your money honestly, you stop living inside assumptions. You begin making decisions based on reality. Reality may not always feel comfortable, but it always gives you something assumptions never can: control. Then came one of the simplest, yet most life-changing ideas. Give every dollar a purpose before it exists. Instead of wondering where your money went, you begin telling it exactly where to go. Your future stops receiving leftovers. It becomes one of your first priorities. We uncovered the hidden danger of lifestyle inflation, the quiet habit of turning every raise into another monthly obligation. And we discovered that real wealth isn't measured by visible luxury. It's measured by invisible freedom. The freedom to make choices. The freedom to walk away from situations that no longer serve you. The freedom to live according to your values instead of your financial pressure. We learned that consistency quietly defeats intensity. Small decisions, repeated month after month, eventually create outcomes that dramatic bursts of motivation never can. You don't need to transform your financial life in one weekend. You simply need to become slightly better, again and again and again. We explored the remarkable force of compounding, the quiet partnership between patience and time, a partnership that rewards ordinary people willing to stay committed long enough for invisible progress to become visible success. Then we turned inward, because every purchase begins inside the mind before it appears on a receipt. We discovered how emotions, advertising, comparison, and stress quietly influence our spending. The goal was never to eliminate enjoyment. The goal was to ensure your money reflects your values rather than your impulses. We built an emergency fund, not merely as savings, but as peace of mind, because preparation transforms fear into confidence. Confidence creates patience. Patience creates better decisions. Finally, we shifted our focus from earning money through time to gradually allowing money to support the life you truly want to live. Not because work is something to escape, but because freedom means work becomes a choice, not a necessity. And now, after everything we've explored, perhaps the greatest lesson is also the simplest. Money is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. When money becomes your identity, nothing is ever enough. There is always another salary, another promotion, another possession, another comparison, another reason to postpone happiness until someday. But when money becomes a tool, everything changes. A tool to create security, a tool to create generosity, a tool to create opportunities, a tool to create time with the people you love. The most financially successful people aren't always those with the largest bank accounts. They're often the people whose money quietly supports the life they intentionally designed. That is true wealth, not abundance without purpose, but abundance aligned with values. One day, someone may ask you the secret behind your financial confidence. Perhaps they'll expect you to mention a stock, a business, an investment strategy, a lucky opportunity. You may simply smile because you'll know the answer began much earlier. It began the day you stopped asking, "How can I earn more money?" and started asking, "How can I build a better financial system?" That single question changes everything. Because systems outlast motivation, habits outlast emotions, patience outlasts excitement, and wisdom quietly outlasts every market cycle. As you leave this audiobook, remember this: financial freedom is not a destination waiting somewhere in the future. It is something you build every payday, every decision, every habit, every intentional choice, $1 at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time. You don't need a perfect beginning. You only need to begin. Because the best time to build a life of financial freedom was years ago. The second best time is today. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope these ideas stay with you long after the final words fade. Not simply because they help you build more wealth, but because they help you build a life where money quietly supports what matters most. And that is the richest life anyone can truly live.